Olivia Rees is a multi-talented musician and singer-songwriter, and at only 24 years old, she's already collaborated with multiple acts, and she's just brought out her debut album, Exposed. And first of all, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on your show today.
Well, you're very welcome. Your new album is out, it's called Exposed. What would you say the album is about?
I would say the album really reflects on relationships and the part that they play in our lives. So, whether that's friends, family, a partner, they all have a serious effect on you. And it's all about those different effects and stories to be told.
On the cover, there's a picture of you, and there's this big eye on your back. Is that a real life tattoo, or is that something for the album?
Oh no, that's that's just for the album, but it's a
Oh,
picture of my eye, and it's supposed to symbolize the concept of watching your back.
aha, I see. I was thinking that might be the case, but I was worried if I was going to ask a question about it, and it turns out that is just real. But how long did it take you to write this whole album?
I wrote this one at the beginning of this year over the course of a couple months. It all came to me really pretty quickly. I think I had a lot that I needed to say, so it was easy to access it.
And how did you get into that mindset of writing? Because when you write, sometimes it can be hard to block out all the distractions, particularly if you're writing at home. Is there anything you do to focus on the writing rather than anything else in the room?
Well, it's actually funny that you mentioned that because for my very first song, the way that I started writing is I had actually just moved into a new
Yeah.
house and I had no Wi Fi, no cable. My phone was broken, and there was literally nothing in the house to distract me.
Wow.
And I had just gone out the night before and I was reminiscing on the fun that I'd had. And all of a sudden, all of these tunes started coming into my head. And that was how I wrote Sugar and Spice, which is one of the songs on the album. And I started looking up different one shots and loops and things like that to try and portray the song and the tune that was in my head and be able to bring that to life. So it started off just like that with the fact that I had no distractions. So it was very easy for me to engage. And then once I had experienced that and what it felt like to be able to engage and bring my music out in such an expressive way, I just became so inspired. And I was like, I need to really buckle down and express all of these things that I have to say. And from there on out, I would try and go to my own space in the house and I just bring out a notebook and write down what is the story that I want people to relate to when they hear this song. Basically, the isolation there and being able to try and connect people's stories was really what helped me to be able to focus and express all the things that I had to say.
Do you write your lyrics when you're at an instrument such as a guitar or keyboard or piano, or do you imagine the tune in your head when writing and then do the kind of musical element later?
It's a bit of both. Some of them started with a tune in my head, and others started with some lyrics that I felt I really connected with. I play guitar. I taught myself when I was about 12 years old, and I took some piano lessons when I was really, really young. So I know how to, be able to do those things and express when I have a specific tune in my head. But usually it's a bit of a combination. There were certain songs that were inspired by a story right off the bat, and others by some music.
Do you stick to one genre or do you like to kind of branch out? Because I know a lot of other people don't like to categorize themselves. Would you say you're like that, or do you prefer to have consistency?
I would say I am that way in the sense that I like to have that kind of variety. I don't like to box myself into exactly, one genre, because I find depending on the song or the vibe that I get from the music, I'm inspired to do a different part or a different tune or a genre. Primarily, I would say most of my tracks are kind of R&B pop, but I can sing a variety of kinds of music. My voice overall has a strong sound. Like, I like to add growl to my songs sometimes,
Yeah.
things like that, and soul. Um, my speaking voice has always been like that too, so it reflects within my singing.
What keeps you going? Because sometimes things can get tough, and you might. I mean, especially during lockdown, I suppose there hasn't really been much to write about because we've been doing the same thing. So, do you have any kind of techniques when you're stuck with what to write?
Um, well, I had a pretty eventful childhood, and over the course of my life, I've experienced a lot of different things. So I have a lot of different stories to tell. So I rarely find that I don't have anything to say. Um, Usually I have some sort of topic that I want to discuss, and Exposed really, my album Exposed really covers a large variety of different topics.
And when these events happened in your younger years, did you ever think, maybe I'll write a song about this one day? Or was it just something you've reflected back on in later years?
Oh, I honestly always felt like one day this all has to come out in my music. Um, I always felt like I'd experienced so much pain and abuse and things like that that it was almost my job to simultaneously rise from it and help others to be able to access their emotions in almost like a fun way. I wrote what I wanted each song to be about and parts of my own story, because I realized one day if I don't rise up from this, it's going to consume me. And I need to make all of this worth something and to really rise above that.
Yeah, definitely, because music and other forms of writing and creating are quite good cathartic things, aren't they?
Yes, exactly. It's very helpful with even just my own processing, right?
Yeah.
Um, I always struggled with expressing emotions, but I loved feeling free, and dancing to songs and music really inspired me. And when I look back and connect to the lyrics, I felt liberated and able to allow myself to feel some of those things. Like, music's always been my survival, and I realized my pain had to have a purpose,
That's
and
true.
to use my gift to be able to speak to others in that place and offer them that kind of comfort.
I suppose so, because with writing songs, you can open up about things that you might not even say to one of your friends if you don't want to. And the great thing about it is that nobody knows that it's necessarily about your own personal things.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes it's hard to, I always felt like I was almost weak if I expressed that I was feeling, hurt or sad or missing somebody, feeling abandoned. And when you're listening to a song that's got like a catchy beat and you're feeling the music and you look back and you realize these lyrics actually really connect to a piece of me and makes me think of this experience or that one, then you're able to kind of allow yourself to access those emotions. Like, sometimes when you hear depressing, draggy ballads, you it feels soft when you're listening to it. You feel like you have to
Yeah.
be sad listening to it. But if it's got an upbeat vibe to it and you're enjoying it, you're dancing, and then on top of that, you happen to connect to the stories and the lyrics, it's much easier to be able to feel free in that sense.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I really like songs that sound really happy in the melody and the beat, but if you actually pay attention to the lyrics, they're quite bleak stories. Do you have any favourites of the songs you've written?
Oh, I actually feel the same way. It's always my favorite tracks when you look back and the lyrics are bleak, but you don't feel bleak listening to it.
Yeah.
So out of all the songs, I would say they're kind of divided up. I have a couple more casual songs like Fast When I'm Furious, Sugar and Spice, and those are more like partying tracks. They're more lighthearted. But I would say Darker Night is one of my favorite ones. And it's all about feeling abandoned and searching for somebody, but it's still in an upbeat vibe. And one of the key lyrics in that I found to be the most powerful is, I lost myself when I looked for you. And that's one that people have mentioned to me before, that one really resonated with them. So Darker Night, I would say, would be one of my favorites because it's still upbeat, it's still fun to listen to, but it has a lot of references to feeling abandoned. Another really good one that I found has gotten a lot of good responses is Trust Issues. It's a bit slower than some of the other tracks, but still upbeat, still has a good beat to it. And it really just addresses all of the struggles that people feel in modern day life and issues with really allowing yourself to connect to another human and
Yeah.
accepting that vulnerability when that trust has been broken before.
And do you have any other songs coming out in the future, or are you just kind of in the process of releasing this album and aren't thinking too much about stuff yet?
Well, I always am in the process of writing other songs. I find I'm doing that almost constantly.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of different songs that are in the works that are potentials for the future. For the album Exposed, I really narrowed it down to some ones that I felt like the themes sort of interconnected. And so those ones are the ones I worked on finalizing to be put in that album. But I definitely have a number of different songs that I'm hoping to release in the near future.
And has the pandemic affected you? Did you have any gigs planned, or have you seen it more as an opportunity to focus on writing all these songs?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, I did have a number of shows and live performances planned for this year. But due to COVID, those obviously had to be postponed. But other things I'm planning to do for 2020 is I'm going to be filming a music video for Fast and I'm Furious.
Yay.
And that one will have to be, we had other visions for the video initially, but because of COVID, obviously some of those plans had to be changed. But we're going to film in a private location in Quebec to keep things as safe as possible. So the planning for that video definitely had to change. But we're hoping to focus more on that, considering that some of the live performances had to be postponed.
Yep. And do you do anything outside of music at all?
I really focus all my time on really pushing my music and working on a promotion and things like that. Music is truly everything to me. So I like to put all of my drive and all of my time into really committing to my career.
And where can we listen to your latest album and buy it and everything?
So right now it's out on Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud. Those are the main ones that I've released it on. And all of those are easily accessible, of course.
And social media wise, where are you these days?
So I have a Facebook page, Instagram, and Twitter. It's Olivia Rees for my Facebook. It's La La Land Music for my Instagram, and Olivia Rees Music for Twitter.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for joining us today, Olivia.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was nice to talk to you.